Welcome to reading 8.1 on funds of funds. So in this reading, we're going to talk about some of the key characteristics of funds, some of the services that they provide, professional management services, the advantages and disadvantages of investing in these funds as opposed to investing in making a direct investment in the underlying funds. We're going to focus on fund of funds in private markets, so things like funds of hedge funds or private equity fund of funds. And then we'll also look at liquid alternatives in this reading and some of the regulations to which they must adhere so that they can actually be offered to retail investors. And the reading ends with a brief review of the historical return performance of these structures with respect to hedge funds. Now, we mentioned that at the outset, the fund of funds provide a number of professional services. So there's sort of four categories of services or four functions or services that are provided. Excuse me, that are provided by a fund of funds structure. So what are those? So basically, as we said, the fund of fund will create or will select rather the strategy that's going to be invested in, and they'll also select the manager that's going to be invested in, all the hedge fund managers within the fund of fund portfolio. They'll also construct the portfolio, and then they take care of all the risk monitoring and risk management associated with the portfolio. And then number four, really, we should probably say that first, which is the due diligence that they carry out to basically determine, which managers they're going to invest in. So it would make more sense that that's number one. And that due diligence, and particularly what's referred to as operational due diligence, the due diligence, related to the operations of the company, that's a significant cost and requires a significant expertise. And so very often, studies have shown and sort of the evidence indicates that the additional layer fees that are charged by fund of funds are justified by these services they provide, particularly things like the due diligence that they carry out. Now, in addition to these four functions, fund of fund managers can, provide a number of other ways that, other than functions, basically ways that they can add value. Okay, so ways that they can add value, and this is, essentially relative to directly investing in hedge funds, and therefore kind of explains, the justification beyond just due diligence, the justification for the extra layer fees that are paid to fund of fund managers. So one is the strategic allocation. And so we're all familiar with this concept of strategic allocation being a long-term allocation to different funds. And that's carried out obviously based on, what's expected in the long term for the risk return profile of the investment, and also things like correlation between observed and expected returns. So the fund of fund manager will actually make that determination to construct the initial portfolio. And then the second so value add is this notion of tactical asset allocation, which is basically active management. So